What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. We're here for not the Canadian Grand Prix, it's the French Grand Prix. A Grand Prix in which I am forming a bit of a, not even a love-hate relationship, just a hate relationship. We started off with the Major Failure this time last season, and it's always a circuit which the AI are ridiculously OP at. So I'm not expecting any miracles out of this Grand Prix. But, yeah, let's just get into it. Let's get it over and done with, and then we can move into the spicier tracks in the season. Before that, we have another department event. What are they? They're complaining about burnouts. We are going to splash the cash and help them out.
The department wants me to pass on their thanks for helping out.
You're lucky that Marduk Motorsport are absolute ballers these days, and money doesn't matter so much to us anymore. Let's keep the upgrades rolling in, give them a break. But yeah, in the meantime, we've actually lost all of our sponsors, so yeah, we're gonna have to swiftly renegotiate some deals last minute before the French Grand Prix. Otherwise, we're gonna have no sponsors on the car, but we should be fine otherwise. Upgrade wise, we're gonna do a rear downforce one. We do have the British Grand Prix coming up after Austria. Austria's only a week away. We won't be able to get anything on in time for that. But we know that Silverstone is one of those circuits where you need a lot of rear downforce. It's one of the rare tracks where you do need that. So hopefully that'll make the car more stable. And then as such, we can be a bit more aggressive with the setup. Some fabrication upgrades to the durability. And that is all she wrote for the behind the scenes stuff heading into today's race. So let's get into the weekend. Going to be raining for practice one and a bit of rain for the race actually, which might spice things up. In terms of the performance index, we have overtaken the likes of Alpine, and well, the upwards momentum is really starting to show on the table now. Next up is Aston Martin, so hopefully we can close into those guys in the next few races. But you know, we're already beating the likes of those guys anyway. Our car is a lot better than what the performance index suggests with our performance-orientated upgrades. There are a lot of upgrades that other teams are doing, which aren't making such a big difference in terms of performance, which we are getting out of the car. So that's actually nice to see. Friday practice, run and done. Got everything we needed to out of it, pretty much maximizing it. Nico being an absolute boss as always, bringing in the resource points. So the flow of momentum just continues at the team, which is lovely to see. But anyway, let's get underway for quali. All right, here we go for qualifying for poor Ricard. Let's try and avoid a disaster if we can. We know this is a bit of a bogey circuit for us. The AI are ridiculously fast at high-speed corners, and this place is kind of littered with high-speed corners. But we do have the Renault engine to save us a little bit on the straight. As you can see, a bit of a moment there out of the roller coaster section, going through turns 1 and 2. Yeah, if you hit the curb wrong, it is a bit of a nightmare to save the car. We are running, again, an aggressive setup this weekend. I think it's 10-7 wings. So, yeah, the front end is a little bit more bitey than the rear. And, yeah, it's quite easy to loop this thing around. We come across the line to do our first lap, and that is a 27.3. Puts us right behind our teammate, which is not a bad start. Again, through turns 1 and 2, going for another lap. And, well, the car kind of died before we even got to the second part of that corner. Tires are on fire, and that is the end of that run for qualifying. 2/10 away from our teammate in the end. We are in safety for now by only a 10th and a half, which is not exactly safe. We're going to have to go out there again, use another set of tires, which is not ideal. I want to be getting through Q1 with just the one set of tires if I can, but I don't know, it's tricky, you know. It depends on how we nail the setup. We've now got our DRS failure, which is going to make life even more tricky. We do survive turns 1 and 2 this time, but the car was already on edge a little bit with the rear end, and now it's turned up to 11, I guess, with the rear wing open everywhere. We are going to be a rocket ship in a straight line literally everywhere, but we have to back off a little bit through the corners to make sure we don't die, essentially. That is the compromise. But let's see if we can actually improve on our time. This is the... that was actually thinking it was going to be the toughest corner of all of them. That was not too bad in the end. We're 3.5 tenths up as we run through the middle sector. And yeah, you can see the car is very much on edge. You can't lean on the tires too much in the corners. That's where the rear end grip really kicks in. But we've not got any of it on this lap. Anyway, DRS has opened the whole lap. Up to the line. And we do improve. Thankfully, we do survive that absolute nightmare and get through to Q2. I think in the end that did help us. We did have to compromise through a couple of corners where we held back a little bit. Turns 1 and 2 being one of them. The right-hander at the end of the 2 straights. And then like the second to last corner. Otherwise, it was, I think that actually helped us, which is pretty cool to see. That's only the second time that's ever happened to me. The other time was when I was in co-op with Arav only recently at Baku, and I tell you what, having the DRS fail open at Baku is a major advantage. Oh, bye-bye. Bye-bye. That's our second lap in Q2. Again, that corner continuing to be the bane of my life, but it's actually quite rewarding. When you do get it right, the car feels very, very nice. I will say, the car has come on a long way since the start of this career mode. We're already like miles faster than the baseline Mercedes. Hell, we were even faster than the baseline Mercedes in co-op after 10 races. That's how quick the progression is in terms of car development. Maybe it's too fast, but you know, everyone's kind of upgrading at the same rate, so it's hard to really tell until you look at the lap times. And yeah, the car does feel incredible when you go through corners. Anyway, we've put in a couple of runs on 2 used sets of tires. We're now going to go out there now on our one and only set of new tires, which we're saving for the end of the session for when the track is at its best. We've got 2.5 minutes to go. We're going to go out there now and set our next lap, which, according to the Delta, is going to be like nearly a second better than what we can manage on the used tires. But we get out on the circuit, and what do you know? We have no time left. Well done, Codemasters. Well done. There was a whole minute worth of slack time for the AI to get its ass into gear and get out on the circuit and start a flying lap. How hard is it? It doesn't take a minute to go from garage to on the circuit. It just doesn't. But there we go. We're out of the session. We could have easily been in the top 10. I don't know. Everyone kind of improved at the end there. Let's ignore that. But I think we would have been in Q3 there with brand new tires and a rubbered-in circuit. God's sake, that's so frustrating. That is so frustrating. But yeah, you give the AI all the time in the world and they still dawdle out there like it's a Sunday drive. Anyway, speaking of Sunday, anything can happen.
Here we are again then at Le Castellet for another round of this year's Formula One World Championship. Renault took their first French Grand Prix win all the way back in the inaugural race in 1906, but it was another 73 years before they could take their second. I'm sure Alpine will be pushing hard to delight the local fans here today. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The Finn starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, Lando Norris and Ricciardo, Perez, Sainz, Gasly and Esteban Ocon, Vettel, Stroll, Benjamin and Tsunoda, Rosberg, Russell, Antonio Giovinazzi and Daniel Ticktum, Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Mazepin and Marcus Armstrong. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
This is our engine supplier's home Grand Prix. Let's give them a race worth watching.
Thanks, Jeff, but I'm pretty sure that's exactly what you said this time last year when the engine blew up. So I'd appreciate some reverse jinxing this time around. That would be nice. Anyway, welcome to the French Grand Prix, raining as promised. And it actually might dry up towards the end of the Grand Prix. So we're having an inverse race of what we saw today in Russia in real life. Actually just got done watching that, by the way. How gutting is that for Lando? Anyway, let's see if we can do a little bit better than what he can in this race. 5 red lights, and we are underway for the, I was going to say the Russian Grand Prix. It's the French Grand Prix, the two tracks that I hate equally as much. Anyway, Rosberg gets off to a nice start as we head down into turn 1. Absolutely steaming in there. Hopefully he can gain a couple of positions. But no, he backed out of it at turn 1. He's actually going to slide in behind Stroll and Tsunoda. So not a good start there for our teammate. He's going to continue to fall further back in this race if he can't get any moves done. We can see Vettel and Ocon getting caught up behind Sainz and Gasly. We do get past the Frenchman and up into P10. So not a bad start. It's going to be absolutely crucial for us today to cut through the traffic early because it's going to be difficult to overtake in the rain. No DRS helping us in these conditions, which is ultimately a lot more critical for our teammate in trying to get through the pack. He's got a quick car, but it's hard to do anything when you can't overtake in a straight line, which is surprising given the strengths of this Marduk Motorsport vehicle. Anyway, we go around the outside of, not Lance Stroll, that was Carlos Sainz getting it wayward there. We've taken a corner cut warning in an effort to get past, but it looks like the Ferrari is going to get us as we head down into this very fast right-hander. Have to shift down to 7th gear. In the dry, it's a completely flat-out corner without any danger of losing the back end or even falling off the racetrack. But in the wet, it is a completely different challenge altogether, and that corner might catch me out a couple of times over the course of this race. We're now going to run on Gasly as we head down into turn 1. Thank you very much. That's P8 for us. Leclerc up next, and the rest of the guys up ahead of us are going to be that much more difficult to overtake, being that they are in much faster cars. We did dispatch of one Ferrari. Let's see if we can dispatch of the second. It's going to be that much harder to do it after lap 1. Now that the field is going to start decompressing, and the gaps are just going to be that much larger with everyone into the flow and rhythm of this race. 1 second up on our previous best delta, and there's the mistakes creeping in at that fast right-hander already. Missed the apex literally by half a car width, and that was enough to send me wide. Thankfully, we didn't get a warning for that because strict corner cutting rules are pretty brutal, as we all know. But I think, you know what, I think the, if we're going to get technical about this, I think the track limits are based on how much speed you carry out of a corner. So if you're going slowly or slower than usual and you don't gain anything, then more often than not, you can actually get away with not getting a warning, which is what we got on that occasion, since we did just simply run wide and lose time. Again, we got away with it again, so that's very, very lucky on our behalf. But anyway, we're catching up to Leclerc. Rushed into the chicane there, which saw the back end go and try and overtake the front end. Thankfully, we caught it. And now we're going to try and have a go at Leclerc into the fast right-hander. We're not catching him by enough, so we're just going to settle in behind. The dirty air washes us out completely wide, and we run wide there for the 3rd time in this race. Thankfully, old mate, I forgot what his name is. I forgot what the race director's name. Michael Massey. He's my neighbour back home in Australia. There's only about 5 people who live in the country, and yeah, he was one of them. Daniel Ricciardo lives 2 houses over. We're all very friendly back home, and those friendliness is carried over into this race. So thank you, Michael, for that. I appreciate that. We're going purple to the middle sector. Leclerc is bowled into the pit lane for an early stop onto another set of intermediate tyres. He is committing very early to the 2-stop. It's there's no guarantee that it's going to go to dry compound running anytime soon, so might be a good call on Leclerc's part, but still very early days to really call anything. I'm going to stay out long. I'm going to play it safe and do what the leaders are doing at this stage, because we are in a good position. We're in P7. We don't exactly want to go too aggressive and throw a really good result away, so we're just going to stick it out for now. We have the tyre wear as well to really run deep into these races. It gives us a lot flexibility, I'd say, to do what we want. The Ferraris, I actually think, have the worst tyre wear in the whole field, so they're not exactly confident on their pace, long-running pace, that is, to do a one-stop in this race. Anyway, my teammate is in a couple laps after Leclerc, and it looks like he's doing a two-stop in this race. As, by the way, just casually, doing a fastest up of the Grand Prix. Don't mind if I do, in my midfield car. Anyway, we're catching up to Daniel Ricciardo now, my other neighbor, as I was saying. Hello, Daniel. I'll see you next Sunday for a barbecue if we get a good result out of this race. Whoever gets the better result is hosting the barbecue, I guess. Anyway, here's the replay. Thank you very much. Yeah, we just carried all the speed in there. Maybe loaded up the front tires a little bit more than what I wanted to. But we sacrificed a good exit just to get the position. And that is us now up into P6 with 40% tyre wear.
This rain should stop sometime in the next few laps.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. So it's looking likely the rain is going to stop in the next few laps, maybe 5 or so minutes. Then it's going to take a little while for the track to fully dry out to the point where it's going to be suitable for dry compound tyres. So, yeah, if we are going to stretch this onto the dry compound tyres on this set of tyres, then it's going to be quite the stretch. We are going to have to start holding back a little bit, and I think that's what I'm going to do. Watch as we head into here. Do we lift? Yes, we do lift off on this occasion. So at the start of the Grand Prix, I was running quite wide there, loading up the front tyres. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the tyre wear is a bit imbalanced. The front end tyres are all much more worn out than the rears. So just trying to reduce the corner speeds to make sure we can get a bit deeper in this race. And you never know, that extra couple of percent that we save every few laps might be the difference between a puncture and winning the race, potentially. So, yeah, we're just biding our time for now. These guys, to be honest, they're not really holding me up. I'm pretty much running at their pace. I might be like a tenth or two faster per lap, but it's not worth going for a lunge and battling just for the sake of trying to get ahead when, you know, they're going to pit anyway. And, you know, that's what they're doing on screen now. So I think we're going to be leading the Grand Prix now. We are going to be leading the Grand Prix. Bottas, Perez, and Norris pulling into the pit lane. Verstappen is the effective race leader, 12 seconds back. And that's the margin we have to play with now for the rest of the Grand Prix, if we are to make it onto the dries from this set of tyres. So at this stage, it's about tyre management. Just trying to make sure that these tyres can get to the end without blowing up. So let's see if we can do it. Verstappen is catching us. He's setting fastest lap after fastest lap. Basically, the top 6 are in that realm. So it's a bit daunting, but we're just doing our best job to just march on with the job and not lose our heads too much. Verstappen's still catching us by at least a second a lap at this stage. We are actually putting in pretty competitive lap times compared to our previous best. The tyre deg, relative to the track getting faster, kind of negates itself. So we're able to do pretty competitive lap times still. But the guys on new tyres are absolutely flying. 70% on the front left tyre. It is absolutely crunch time.
A perfect situation, but I don't think we have cause to move on to a different tyre yet.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. We are getting very, very close now to the crossover. Jeff is suggesting new tyres as the next box, but we didn't have enough time to react. The track is still too wet to go onto dry compound tyres, but the FIA have disagreed with that. It is time for dry compound tyres. DRS has now been disabled. Lance Stroll is out of the Grand Prix. Not sure what that is all about. Probably reliability failure, but no one budging on that lap. Actually, a Ferrari is. Carlos Sainz is in. So he's going to be the first to blink on the dry compound tyres. Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Perez, none of them pulled into the pit lane, even with an extra couple of moments to think about the strategy change. So here we go, into the pit lane on this lap. The tyres are 77% on the front left. That is puncture territory right there. We've been very, very lucky to get away with it up until this point. We're going to absolutely fly into the pit lane and get off these onto a set of dries. Hopefully, oh, you can see the tyre temps there. They are on fire. Verstappen and Bottas carrying on for another lap. But I was about to say this. Hopefully, I haven't done a Lando, and hopefully the track is suited to the conditions. Like, hopefully the track isn't too wet for dry compound tyres. We're about to find out as we box now for softs. Surely it's okay if one of the Ferraris has done the exact same thing but, you know, this is a Codemasters F1 game, and apparently when the track is still wet, it's absolutely fine for dry compound tyres. Out we go into turn 1, first turn of the wheel, and it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. So we're going to be good to go to roll on for the rest of this Grand Prix. Verstappen carries on for an extra lap. He's going to have 1 lap fresher tyres on the softs. Hopefully he hasn't actually overcut us here, because that would be devastating. We might be on target for our first race win on this game, in this car. And we've only got 5 laps to go to defend from Max Verstappen and Valtteri Bottas. Purple to the 3rd sector, so the tyres are switching on at this point. We don't have to worry about tyre wear whatsoever in this car. That's the one thing that's actually saved us in this race and allowed us to do a 1-stop straight onto the softs. The tyre wear upgrades, and also some of the management we were doing over the course of the race has put us in this position to where we might actually win this thing. But it's now all going to come down to the pace. It's going to be a straight up sprint versus Verstappen and Bottas for the rest of the Grand Prix. 33.7 is the opening account, and we continue to raise the marker, I guess, as the track ramps up. Here comes one of the Haas drivers out of the pit lane. We are not going to be able to gun for a fast lap on this occasion. Schumacher getting in the way. Please pull over, mate, and get out of the way. Thank you very much. The gap is fairly stable, I've got to say. It's 4.5 seconds. Verstappen is catching us, but only by like a tenth or two every lap. It's been half a second on this occasion, thanks to the Haas. We are now going to get past Mazepin as well, which will be a nice dose of slipstream and DRS, which actually might help us as we rush in too quickly into the chicane. We've gone over the AstroTurf there and maybe frozen the tyres a little bit, but yeah, that's what happens when you throw in the car too deep in the dry, let alone in the wet when the track is so greasy at this point. But we're now heading on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. And if you guys thought after that minor scare that we were going to hold back and just bring it home to the end, you'd be mistaken. Because we're actually going to go for a fastest lap if we can. I feel like there's enough pace in this car, in these tyres, to actually go for that somehow against these guys. The car is deceptively fast. And we didn't realise that in qualifying. We didn't get the run in properly. We should have been in Q3. But in the race, we've absolutely charged forward in the inters. We've had the pace in the dry and in the wet. It's actually quite unbelievable to think what position we're in now in this race. You can see I'm absolutely sending it over the curbs. We've got a couple of track limit warnings up our sleeve. I think I've only taken 1 warning so far in this race, so we can take liberties a little bit in an effort to get a fastest lap. You can see we're 1.1 seconds up on our time. Okay, there's that second warning. Now we've got to calm down, because if Verstappen has an absolute worldie of a 3rd sector, our whole world could come crumbling down here, but I think we might be okay. 4.8 seconds. We're extending the gap to Bottas is now up in a P2, so Verstappen and Bottas are squabbling. We're coming around the final couple of corners now, and this is going to be a monumental moment in the history of this team. We come out of the final corner, and we, in our own team, are going to win our first Grand Prix here in France. Unbelievable.
Fantastic. You've won the Grand Prix.
Did I ever tell you guys how much I love this circuit? It's 100% the best circuit that's ever been made.
We've witnessed some great battles around Paul Ricard today, and they've taken a fantastic win. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
I think we'll chalk this one up to a deft touch on the brake pedal. That's allowed them to challenge down the inside into the braking zones, and ultimately, if you do that often enough, you end up winning the race. It was great to watch as well though, wasn't it? Forget strategy, forget tyre management. Who doesn't love a good old-fashioned scrap?
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
You can say that again, Crofty. We are winners in Formula 1, and we've done it in our very own car. We're still a midfield car. I still can't quite comprehend. I can't even speak now. I can't even speak. We have won a Grand Prix, and I'm still just a bit dumbfounded as to where this pace has come from. We've shown it in the last 3 races. Canada, we had the pace to win. last time out. Where were we last time? I can't even remember. And we've had the pace to win here. It's just unbelievable, really. We stuck it out. We did quite well on the inters. We carved our way through the field quite well. Then the tire saving techniques came into effect, and we chanced it on the weather, not being able to outlast our tires, and the gamble paid off. And then even then, when we put ourselves in P1, we still had the pace to back it up. We still had the pace to hold off the likes of Verstappen and Bottas. It's a bit mental, really, because I still don't know how we were this fast. This is the French Grand Prix. 110 AI. I did scratch my, maybe I'll include the footage at the end. But we've won a Grand Prix, and we're now third in the driver's standings. Guys, if you enjoyed that, make sure you smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you need to see plenty more racing game content. But yeah, like I said, I don't really know where that came from. The pace, the raw pace, the comparison at the end between us, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Ricciardo, etc. We're not running a super special setup or anything. I just loaded off a time trial and I didn't put any extra practice in. But for whatever reason, the car, the team, it just clicked this weekend at a track which I don't usually win at. I don't usually do too well against the AI, but yeah, the pace was pretty mental. So I'll absolutely take that. A first win at France. That never happens. We get our first wins at like Monaco, Baku, Canada, etc. This one was definitely left of field. But there we go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Maybe that's redemption for Lando. Anyway, thank you for watching. Tune into the next race. I think it's the Austrian Grand Prix, where again, it's a strong circuit for us. This one isn't a strong circuit for us, but look at where we ended up. So Austria, a track where I've got a lot of confidence at and can do quite well against the AI. So who knows? Anything is possible. Until the next one, I'll see you next time. That's a good scratch.